I'm Jesse Isaacs, and we see a lot of headlines in the news about attacks on religious institutions. So our next question is, do people who are religious feel safe in this country?
Going from statistics for the Jewish population, it's showing that there's been more hate crimes and anti-Semitic actions over this year than it has over the last few years, and it's rising. I think with that sort of eyes on you, everything gets amplified. But the statistics show that it is happening, and there's been pushback kind of both ways of is it as bad as it is, or is it worse than it is? And I think that's what our community is navigating. It's in our small town in Athens. I would say it's different than if you were in Atlanta or in the Northeast or somewhere else. So it really depends where you're at, but it is being shown that religious institutions are losing the safe feeling that they once had, and it's very prevalent in the Jewish community.
Yeah, honestly, I can't imagine what that's like. I would just say I think we live in a really interesting cultural moment on so many levels. Number one, anything that happens almost anywhere in the world, violent attack of any kind, we can see it within minutes. And I think one of the things that does is it heightens our awareness of sad and tragic things that are happening around the world. There can be positive things of that, right? You're aware of harmful things that are happening, but it also seems to, in certain areas, like normalized violence in some ways, which I personally don't think is positive, right? And so I perceive, specifically if you make it into the world of social media, which is a lot of people's normal world, that's their main media influence. You see so much violence on so many levels. I mean, just stories of individuals walking down the road and someone coming up and hitting them, right? And just being violent in various ways. And so we obviously see school shootings and we see church shootings and so many different things like that. So I think it's difficult to know, is that happening at a greater rate right now than in the past, or do we have a greater awareness? Are we seeing it more often than it was taking place in the past? I don't feel like an expert in that area. As a follower of Jesus in general, I feel safe in our community and I feel safe in America. I don't feel religious persecution necessarily, which hurts my heart for people that do. I would say I personally wouldn't want to be Muslim right now in the United States, and I'm not sure that I would want to be Jewish right now in the United States. I think there's just enough tension and different angry perspectives coming from so many political angles and whatnot. And so I don't know if that is making religious people feel less safe. I would just say I think people feel less safe in America. And that's an unfortunate reality, which is interesting. It can tie back to some of our, founding documents and the way that we wanted to give people freedoms in this country to be who they are and where they are. It's definitely not coming from the way of Jesus. Jesus would never promote violence for someone based on their beliefs. And so, I think it's an interesting moment to say what we're all exposed to so frequently, and to know if that's more or less common than in times in the past.
I just want to say that as a student and as a Christian in the South, I think it's so important to have these conversations and to be aware of those who do feel unsafe or persecuted, because personally I'm in a bubble and I don't feel unsafe. I feel very safe, and it's really important for me to recognize that that's not everyone's story. That's not the case for everybody. And so I think stuff like this is really important. I think it's important to hear from people who are different from you, people who are in different circles. So really appreciate both your perspectives.
So, safe, there's a broad application of that. So there are people who literally are fearful for their lives. That's one version. And then there's also people feeling safe to share kind of what's in their mind about things. And I think one thing that I think in the university setting we need to really work toward is creating safe spaces in classes for our students to have real, authentic conversations. If we don't do it here, where else in the world are we going to do it? And being a professor of religion, one of my biggest goals is in my class, students from all faith traditions. And when I think of all faith traditions, I don't just lump them into the big ones. I think even within Judaism, there are various sects of Judaism, and within those sects, they have very different beliefs about the world. Within Christianity, it's the largest religion in the world and arguably the most diverse religion in the world, because Christianity is everywhere, and there are people from many different spectrums. And kind of getting back to like the genius of our founding documents is, I think, in that milieu of people experiencing a similar but very different religion, they kind of geniusly decided we need freedom in this. And so I think at the university space, we need safety to share our opinions and actually talk with someone in person. Sean brought up social media, and I think the thing with social media is people are more likely to say something to their phone than they are to a person sitting across the table drinking a cup of coffee. And the call and response of that is a very different experience.
That's a clever use of call and response. I love that. So the word university, it means unity and diversity. And of course, we're speaking about an ideal, because like you in my classroom, I want my students to feel comfortable sharing. And I think that we can extrapolate that into the various religious communities that exist in the country. You could be in a church or a synagogue that has a prevailing way of thinking, and you may be in the minority, and you may not feel safe expressing that because of the consequences that may come. And I think that ideal is certainly the goal, and it should be that unity and diversity even within these smaller cultural communities. But it's not an ideal, I think, that we often meet, and it's something that I attempt to do. I don't know how successful I am at doing it, but it's certainly something that I try to do. But I do think, in echoing what you all said, that people writ large are feeling unsafe, and certainly I think we could also say that about certain religious people as well.
I've been asked to speak at a number of classes, and I always go in with angst and always come out feeling like I have community. So even post October 7th, I got asked to be on a religious panel, and one of my friends is of the Muslim faith, and I hadn't talked to him before that, and so there was even more angst than before. But as soon as we walked in, it was like nothing's changed. We both bond over food. We both bond over how religion builds community and how we need to be better for each other and better for our community. And it's something that students came up to us afterwards and thought it was just going to be dead silence. Like we wouldn't even talk to each other. And then we were laughing and joking. He was always coming to Shabbat to come for dinner, and we were always going for coffee. But it's something that those interactions I wish would happen more and more, and I try to model them as much as I can. I am also winding up my presidency of University Religious Life, the UGA University Religious Life Association, and it's always wonderful when we can get everybody in a room and share and talk. And this university is very special, and it's very special in this community that we can come together and we can be more than just what we are. We can be better, and I think I've seen huge strides in that from everyone, and everyone's open for a conversation, and I have to work as hard as I can locally, and hopefully the students take that and it goes with them, and they can have conversations wherever they go. That my way of combating the scared isolation is to show that we can be more. We can be friends. We can have these talks, and in a safe space where people can say things that they wouldn't feel right saying somewhere else, where it's coming from a place of actual wanting to know, want to connect, and that's my way of fighting to make sure that we feel safe. Because if people want to ask me anything, I rarely take offense to things, and I try to keep that open mind that everybody has the touch of divine in them. So we're all coming from that special place that we're all godly creatures. Everything that, let's make this the best world we can live in. And if I can model it and it makes this place safer, hopefully it goes from there.